The name of that terrific song is The Screaming Song, and that's from a brand new album called United State by my special guest today, Justin Wells. Justin, welcome to the Friday Afternoon Music Mix.
Greg, thanks for having me. I've been looking forward to this.
Oh, me too. Me too. Um, let's talk a little bit about you and your music. This new album is just absolutely terrific. One of the things that jumped out at me, I got to tell you, is do you know the woman personally that's on the cover of that album?
I certainly don't. Her name is Maria. She's in Mexico, and the way that came about is my good friend Keith Neltner, who did the art for the album. We were going back and forth on some ideas, and we'll probably speak to it later in the interview. There is an idea behind the album as a whole, and so I didn't want to cut corners on the art. Anyway, and kind of pitching this concept that he had, he used some placeholder images, just things he found online, and from this specific site. And I might have to think about it later. But basically, so photographers upload these photos to this site to be used. You have license to use them at will.
Yes.
Anyway, so he'd shown me a couple of images and we're going to use these multiple portraits, and I just kept coming back to this picture of Maria, like this is stirring, man. And I didn't know that was from a site, and I said, do you own this? Can we use this? He said, I do. I do not own it, but yes, we can use it. Okay. So it being kind of an open source, if you will, anybody can use that. So if you on your next album, you can use the same photo, but I don't know. Even that concept of that being just kind of open was pretty stirring to me, and not to kind of get awkward with it, but something about Maria's hair specific. I don't know. I showed it to other members of my family, and it was my mamaw. Like she resembles. There's a similarity to my mamaw and Ruby, who is named on the record as well. So all of that.
It's a very moving picture, isn't it? It
Isn't
really
it?
is. I mean, every
Nothing was
line.
going to be better if we went to
No,
something else.
it's just
If we took
great.
another portrait, it wasn't going to beat that.
I seldom comment on when I talk to artists about their cover art, but that one is just fantastic. It really
Well,
is.
I appreciate that, and I got to give a shout out to Christian Newman, the photographer down in Mexico, who is a fantastic talent and who took that photo.
It just it goes well with the whole theme of this album, and I've listened to your first solo album, which was Ashes and Angels, and also I'm a great admirer of the work that you did on your first collaboration, which was Fifth on the Floor. But what I'm noticing in your solo career is that, and I've been trying to think all week long, Justin, what I would say, how I describe this music, because the first thing I thought to myself, this is not my father's country music. It's just really not. But there is in it, to me, the only word that came to mind with this is there is a sophistication in your music that is unlike any I've ever heard. And you talk about the things that are, and you use the term polarization and in our society today, but you talk about everything, and you see the experience, you see the pain that's in there. The song that you have there that I played last week on my show was "No Time for a Broken Heart," and um, I could hear my father saying to me what you said in that, which is, "I'd like to lie and tell you it gets better."
Yeah. Yeah. And I meant that, as really a positive note. The kind of idea behind that song specifically, what I pictured is me now talking to me at 18, saying,
Right.
usually the old adage is, youth is wasted on the young. I wanted to flip that a little bit and be like, look, no, yeah, sure, you're dumb, but 18 is the time to be dumb. Don't be growing up at 18. We've got
Right.
and we've probably been slapped in the face with that more than ever in the last year. I've got 8-year-old daughters who, have had to deal with this like the rest of us, and process it differently. But, I don't know. I'm a big old child. I literally play for a living, and I just feel like hold on to hold on to being young and dumb. Why is that such a negative?
Oh, I agree with you totally. I really do. I know that you said that there was some pain that was involved after leaving the band that you were a founder of, and and that it shaped the way you have written both of your albums, both Ashes and Angels and United State. That kind of experience brought you to be able to almost architecturally put this together and have it done. I saw that you said that you did that before you recorded United State.
Yeah, to a certain extent. I mean, I think I've always got my next couple of records planned out. The band, this seems like unusual. Well, maybe not unusual. I don't know. In retrospect, not so much, but it fell apart rather quickly and kind of in a way at our peak in a certain a level. But I had some songs that I already written, but then it's land on my feet or do what? I'm unhireable. I got at this point, a 15-year hole in my resume, and my wife, who sometimes I wish was a little more of hey man, maybe don't eat that, or like, hey man, maybe don't do that. But she's always so encouraging, and we had young children at that point, and I was like, do I go to the factory? I mean, that's the American dream, is
Right.
get the 401k, and dad's at the factory. I think I could get hired even in how I look. And she said, if you quit this dream, if you quit, you're teaching our daughters how to quit. Well, the
What can you
gauntlet
say to
was
that?
nothing. I kept my mouth shut, believe it or not. So I started writing Dawn in the Distance, and this newest record, the United State, this newest record really was supposed to be about record 5. I kind of thought the idea, and I'm really trying real hard to avoid that word concept because it leads us down a critical road that I'm not inviting. But I really thought it'd be record 4 or 5. It was in my head a kind of grand idea, and to make what could be a long story rather short, I was very encouraged by my producer and collaborator Dwayne Lundy to make that a now thing. He'd heard a couple of things I was working on, and he pushed that to me now.
Yeah, and you did bring up somebody there that I wanted to ask you about, was Dwayne Lundy.
Can't say anything good about him. He's too good a friend.
He's got a great track record, though. He really does, and he's done such a good job on this. I've always said that I'm at a point now after 15 years that I can hear when a good producer has put together an album. It's night and day, and this one is just fantastic. He's done a great job with it, and it looks to me like you recorded all over the place with it. In New York, Rockford, Illinois, Lexington, Kentucky.
Yeah, a little bit by necessity, because a lot of the players we use, rather than use what would stand, to your listeners, a lot of studio players don't tour, and a lot of touring players don't do a whole lot of work in the studio unless it's like a band, and these are the 4 guys.
Yeah.
And I wanted the band, and at the time my band was somewhat in flux, but we had big ideas, and we wanted some big players. So yeah, we got guys that are in large touring acts, and forced them to work together. But we had to work around their schedules. So sometimes that meant, going up to Rockford and playing with those Nielsen boys, and there you have it.
Well, speaking of a band collaboration, why don't we do one of your older songs and listen to that, and called January in Louisiana. Sound good?
Sounds good.
It's a cold, cold night in an even colder cell. I'm a long way from home and even further from Belle. I ain't got no shoes, nobody for a friend. January in Louisiana, and this day won't ever end. That man took my livelihood, and that man took my wife. One shot from my pistol, I thought I'd make it right. And no matter how you look at it, I'd do it all again. January in Louisiana, and this day won't ever end. January sunrise, but the sunrise won't come. Electric light in the dead of night to shine on what I've done, and there's no angels in hell, no hearts here to mend. January in Louisiana, and this day won't ever end. Gallows, but I won't hang my head in shame. It's a world full of gamblers, and I just lost the game. And Lord, I hope to see you when I come around the bend. January in Louisiana, and my day's about to end. January, yeah, in Louisiana. My heart can't cry no more. January.
It's a terrific song. I really like that a lot. I wanted to ask you too about your first album. I noticed that Shooter Jennings was involved with you on that. I assume you guys are good friends. Did he produce that, or did he just join in musically with you, or both?
Both. So that was the last Fifth on the Floor record that Shooter did, Ashes and Angels.
Oh, he did?
And,
okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. He produced it. That was the first record. It's kind of cool, you know. So Shooter at this point is a Grammy-winning producer.
I know.
Outside of being an actor and a musician, and I don't know what his Wikipedia says at this point, but
and that's a great source of reliable information.
yeah. Nothing could possibly be wrong there.
People Magazine, maybe. You know?
we were the first record that wasn't his own that he had ever produced. You know, and he's since gone on to do Brandy Carlisle and stuff. But we had just gotten to be friends, man. A lot of changes had happened in his career, and I was a fan. And at some point, he started playing us on his satellite radio show. We were just no-name punks, you know, out of Kentucky. And long story short, we were in some videos of his and things, and I just asked him to produce. We didn't have a producer, and kind of thinking, you know, as end of the night at the honky tonk, kind of thought it'd go in one ear and out the other, and that'd be the end of it. And like 2 days later, he's like, "Yo, send me demos." I'm like, "Oh, we don't have those. Well, I'll get you to him tomorrow." So, well, he was great, man.
He did a great job, and you did as well. That album is just terrific. It really is. And like you said, he's escalated now to where he and Brandy Carlisle have done the latest album by Tanya Tucker. So
Tucker,
yeah, he's coming up with his production skills. The other thing I wanted to ask you about, you're now living in Lexington, Kentucky, and have been for most of your life. I know you were born in Blanchard, Louisiana, and a family. It sounds Lexington's a beautiful place to live.
It really is. I mean, for its size, on the large side of it and on the small side of it, you know, with crime, with education, it's a good place to raise two ruffian young girls.
Twins, I think you have too, don't you?
Identical twins.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, there's odd things that go on in my house.
And they're going to get more so as you get older, I'm sure.
It seems that way. I'm trying to, you know, find myself in whatever corner I can Be safe in.
Oh, that's great. One of the things too, Justin, that I really like about this album, and I think it sets it apart so much, and I don't know whether you've talked about this in other interviews you've done before, but you bookend this album with two absolutely beautiful, less than 1 minute, I think they're about 48 seconds each, instrumentals, um, that just set this album apart. And the one of them, the first one you start out about, I assume that's about your wife and your family, but the second one, of course, is "Farewell to Mr. Hooper," or "Farewell, Mr. Hooper" is how.
Mhm.
Can you tell me a little bit about both of those?
Sure. I love that you asked that. No, I think we've kind of skirted around it, but I'm not sure anyone's really put it together. And to be honest with you, the CDs are, if they're even still around, if you put it on repeat, I think it'd even be more rewarding when they
Absolutely.
wrap around. But the album is a life cycle, and so that intro track is, being in the womb, and me thinking about, you can hear sounds. They say that your mother's voice, and so I titled that "You'll Never Know, Dear, How Much I Love You" from "You Are My Sunshine," which, according to my mom, we would sing back and forth when I was a baby or whatever. Um, and so that is, super warm. It's a pedal steel. It's very, not harsh tones. Um, Take that same melody at the end as "Farewell, Mr. Hooper," which I thought to be whatever, maybe after death, if anything. That kind of very gospel choral sound that the boys did. But Mr. Hooper specifically is a character from Sesame Street, and I was kind of fascinated with this when my kids were growing up. They like Sesame Street like everybody else, and I'd learned about this episode, and it's where the actor had passed, and so the writers had to figure out how they wanted to address this character going. Did he move away? Are we going to deal with it that way? And what they
Wow.
ultimately landed on is they're going to process death, in real time with Big Bird. Big Bird is basically going to be, the children in the audience. And they're going to kind of, they felt like a lot of kids don't ever get, no one talks to them about it, and then when it hits, it's so traumatic. I just thought that was beautiful. And I think that episode is, 20 plus years old. So, I mean, wow. So I named it after the title of that episode.
Thank you for telling me that. I think that's just absolutely wonderful, and it is really beautiful. And what I did when I played the song on my show, "No Time for a Broken Heart," I followed it up with "Farewell, Mr. Hooper," and it
Oh,
just
cool.
it just blended. Just it almost brought tears to my eyes. Actually, I thought it was so pretty, and
Thank you so much.
yeah, and thank you for taking the time to tell me about that. It's really great. The other thing that I wanted to, before I let you go, you got some great guitar work on this new album. Are you doing that?
I wish. Can I just lie and say that I was, and never provide any
That's
evidence
that's the
ever?
end of your next song.
uh, yeah. Let me give shout outs to Justin Craig, who did acoustic guitar and a lot of other things. Alex Munoz, who I think right now plays with Margot Price. He produced Margot's first two records, and he's played with a number of people, Nikki Lane, etc.
Oh yeah.
He brought in electric mandolins and things. And then Little Joe, who played with Sturgill Simpson forever and now is in Driving and Crying, who is just this fantastic Estonian guitar player who, I don't know, rock and roll guitar is alive and well in Nashville, but those guys now live in Nashville.
Yeah.
And
Driving and Crying's a great group. And
oh, man, yeah. Yeah, just guitars. I don't want guitars to go away. And I
I
know that
I'm with you.
in country music, which I find myself adjacent to, guitars are prominent, but it is a very Telecaster and very twangy thing, and that's not necessarily what I'm after either. I like the big old loud rock guitars.
I do too. The other thing I want to point out is that what I really admire, and I noticed it on your first album, Dawn in the Distance, as well as on United State, that I love the way that you end many of your songs. I mean, it's so non-traditional country. It just they just they just end, and it's
Yeah,
wonderful. What inspired you to do that?
I don't. Well, two things. First of all, it may be wonderful on record, and I think it is, and I'm glad you feel that way. When when you're starting out and you don't have much of an audience, and you do that, you want to find an awkward moment in a show, end a song before an audience thinks it's ending, and then just wait because you might get applause, but it's going to be a minute. That's a bit difficult, but I think that I'm an imposter in the country music world. I appreciate that it has embraced me and the guys in my songs. But I was a rock kid growing up in the country. I grew up in a very small town in central Kentucky, and we were the weirdos. We were the rock kids. We loved everything from Metallica to Pink Floyd, everything that's called classic rock now. Um, and they were all Garth Brooks and stuff, right? And that wasn't my jam. So I don't know. We were kind of scrapping with the guys that listened to country music. That wasn't the thing. And then fast forward to being 21 and, founding that brown water and getting your heart broke. I don't think Guns N' Roses really speaks to heartbreak quite as well as Hank Williams, so I found country music kind of late and fell in love. And, having said all that, I think that I never let that rock and roll go, you know? So maybe that speaks to some of my writing. It certainly speaks to how loud I want everything to be.
It's just tremendous, Justin. Let me point out again, my special guest today is Justin Wells, and his two solo albums are, first one is Dawn in the Distance, and his brand new one that came out in 2020 is United State. And I can tell you that they are wonderful. And if you'd like to purchase them, you can buy them directly from Justin at justinwellsmusic.com. In addition to both of these albums, there's some great merchandise on there, Justin. I really like that. Those limited edition posters, that was a great idea. I like that real well.
Thank you.
Yeah, they're just terrific.
Thank
and I hope that, once you, by the way, I see that you're going back out on the road again, starting June the 18th in Indianapolis. And then you've got some gigs up in through July. That's got to feel good.
We are timidly and tepid, but we're, the guys are vaccinated and we're ready to get back to work. And, we have done a couple of shows and I gotta say the first one we did in Cincinnati sold out room. This is like a 150-year-old church that they've converted to a venue. I don't like to say the favorite show ever because I don't remember enough of them to feel qualified to say that. But everybody was it was palpable how excited everyone was to be there. It wasn't just us being excited to be there; the audience was too. So I hope it's like that for a long time to come because I'm nothing without music. I don't know about you guys.
I feel the same way, and your passion shows in this new album. I just love it. There's not nothing but a fantastic song in every one of these in the album. Thank you, and congratulations on this to you, and thank you so much for joining me here today on the show. It's just absolute pleasure to get to meet you and talk to you. How about if when you get touring again and more in force, and if you get back up to the Pacific Northwest, we're about halfway between Seattle and Vancouver, British Columbia. You could come by the station, bring your guitar, and we could talk some more and listen to some of your music acoustic.
We need to do that. Let's make that happen. I'd love to do that.
I'd love to have you here. That's for sure. Let's go out with one more song, and this is from your first solo album. That's called Dawn in the Distance, and this is titled simply The Dogs. Does that sound good?
That sounds good. I really appreciate it, Greg. Joseph, thank you guys.